Wait, I want to do something really quick. I'm going to show you how to fix floating point origin. I made this little scene, and I probably spent way too much time building this fucking thing. Anyways, I got a little spaceship, and I use space because it's just an obvious one, because it's such a huge thing. But there's a planet, and it's literally like 500 kilometers away. Unity does not like things 500 kilometers away. I'll even show you. Click on that. Look at the distance. Very, very large. So I can control my speed by this. And I'm flying literally at a very high speed. This is probably faster than you would probably make any game. Well, maybe. I mean, and look how slow that's dropping. It's pretty slow. So I made this little guy here. I can ram my speed up by super extra amounts. Now I am traveling, and if you look at my distance, like I am flying A, super fast, but B, going extremely far. And as you see, shit's getting real. Everything's shaking, and this is what floating point origin is. This is what screws things up. So, like, I won't even make it there. Like, I'm a little over halfway, but okay, so we stop. I am no longer moving. Look at the ship. Look at this thing. If I spin, like, you notice the mesh? Like, look how messed up it's getting. It is not liking this distance, and that's because we're at a position, and we only have so many digits that we can use for positions. That's what's causing the floating point error. Like we can't go 500 million miles away because we have things here that need to move on a small scale, like 0.001 or 0001, whatever, right? And the more you kind of put into it, and distances and calculation, especially when you start bringing in physics and stuff, things just get messed up. So when we use this many digits on this side of that point, we don't have a whole lot of digits left for the main purpose of what the floating point origin is. So you end up getting these really messed up calculations, right? Floats aren't accurate. If those were double floats, it would be a lot better, but they're not. So we need to fix that. So there's a few things to note. I'm going to show you the one method. Now, I'm going to use a list and literally add just things to the list. You could use, like in reality, like say you had a train, you literally could just do this whole thing to the entire train as one object. But you'll see what I mean. Is we need a FSM and we need a ArrayList proxy. Let's call this stuff. And in here, let's get owner. And this is on the player. This is on the object that we want to be the floating point origin. And I'm going to store it as, we'll say player. Now, okay. Now we're going to come along here and we're going to do something. We're going to get position. And this is our position, and then I want that every frame, and I want to get vector length. So vector length is how big of a vector it is. That's what the length is. So it doesn't matter what direction you're going, whether you're going, you know, if you're going 1,000 off on the X or 1,000 off on the Z, or 700 and whatever on the X and 50 on the Y, and da-da-da. It's the total length from the vector center, like the point, like 0, 0, 0. Nah, it's all crazy. So anyways, how big of a vector is this? Well, let's float compare this. So if we're starting at 0, and you don't technically have to start at 0. You actually could run an offset on this, but I'm not going to bother doing that. And let's make another variable here. We'll call this our distance. Or you can call it max distance or something, or reset distance maybe. I don't know. I'm going to stick it out here so I can play with it. You don't have to do that. Every frame. Now if we are higher than that distance, we need to reset. And what are we going to do if we reset? We are going to array list get next. We want to go through our stuff, and we are going to loop, and we're going to be done. It's going to be type game object, so we have a current, or you call it current object or something. So let's add our 2 transitions. Now when we're done, we're just going to go back to here. But during the loop, what are we going to do? We are going to get position again, only this time we want the position of the current. So that's current's position. And we want to vector3 subtract. And the order of this is very, very critical. Do not screw this order up. So current positions, subtract our position, and then we are going to set position. Now, this works for things that are non-physics. If you want things that are physics, you can't use set position on them. Well, you can, but it'll be ugly. So I'm going to set the current position. So we get the current position, subtract our position, set the current position, world space. Anyway, so if you are running physics, you would need there should be a physics set position or physics position. So you would have to, you'd either need 2 lists or yeah, move position. But yeah, so you would either need 2 lists, like 1 list for non-physics objects, 1 list for physics objects, and do the same thing, and use the physics on the physics objects, and use the set position on the non-physics objects. Just as a side note. So anyways, so we have that. I'm not going to bring the physics in. So all we need to do now is add things to this list. That's all we have to do, right? We need to give it a distance, and I'll start small. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add an FSM that is going to get owner, and we'll just call it self. We'll do a next frame event so that we're not in the start, since on the player to access that list he's becoming a global, and globals you can't really access globals in that start frame, right? So we're going to do a next frame event just so that we can avoid that, and then we're going to array list add. Now with that said, you're also going to want to, if you destroy this object or something, you'd probably want to remove it from that list. Keep that in mind. Control your data, right? So we're gonna add self, right? So we're adding, so we get our self, we wait a frame, then we add ourself to our global players list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to template it. We'll call it origin, something like that. Sure. Well, I usually don't do that. So now we can, I can say go to the player. Like I said, now you could do like more of a global object and move and put all these as children of it. But in this case, I am going to not do that. I am going to just, or they can all have it and they can all just be part of it. So they can all do that. So if I hit play, right, nothing should happen right at the beginning because it's going to wait that 1 frame. but we skip a frame, and we should now be able to see. Nope, it did not work. So that did. Oh, I messed that up. Look at that. Just totally messing that up. So let's, okay, we're not adding the array list to self. It goes into the player. We're adding self into the player. You guys are probably seeing that and you're like, what the hell is this guy doing? Right? So now, right, skip ahead a frame and I can see we have all those objects. Right? And if I stop spinning here for a minute, and I'm moving this joystick just to help see that shake. Really the main reason. Apparently it's also controlling my ship as well. So really, if you look at our player from the scene view, as I start moving, we move that distance. The distance gets reset on the player and all these things shift. So right here it looks like it's choppy, but in the game view, it is, you know, looking fine. Right, so the whole world is moving, and like around us more or less. Like we're kind of causing that whole world to just literally move around us. Now, with that said, you wouldn't normally have it set to such a low value. You'd probably make it like 1,000 or something. But just as a demonstration, let's jump all this up. Right, and you can see like it's going ballistic, right? And that's fine. Or maybe it's not, because we're actually getting farther away. I don't even know how that's possible. Apparently messed that one up. Oh, yeah, don't mind me. I am crazy. It's because of the position here. The way, like, you can probably notice, like, this little guy's tracking, right? So I can always, I know where the planet is, even though I can't see it, so I can always aim at him. I didn't put any logic in for if I'm facing the other direction to not show it, so that if I turn around, it's showing that it's there, even though it's behind me. But it just, the way it translates, yeah. Anyway, so I was moving in the wrong direction. I was actually moving away from it, even though the way I half did my logic there, I was moving at it. So anyways, all fixed, all better. So we're traveling towards it, and we're going at, you know, 10,000 kilometers per hour. This is not actually 10,000 kilometers per hour. This is actually 200 kilometers in distance, but that's not 10,000 kilometers per hour. It's fast. I mean, you've seen it in the last thing. Like, I was hauling. But as we get closer, I gotta get like, right. Now let's speed that down. So now, like it's like, this thing's huge. Like, I scaled this thing up, right, and I'm moving at it. So I'm still going 440 kilometers per hour. My fake kilometers. Just so you can see how fast that's actually going. He's translating at 444 units per second, right? That's still insanely fast. At the speed I'm going right now, it may not look like it. This is probably faster than you would probably typically set a game up. Like, if this was like your standard world map with like a terrain, you'd cross that map in a few seconds. It would be super quick. This is scaled up. Everything's scaled up. Everything's crazy. We're at crazy distances. So yeah, right. And that's the opposite direction, right? That's because my half-assed logic. But anyways, as you can tell though, nothing is shaking because our player is at that position. Right now, so normally you wouldn't put it like, you would normally have this like at a 1,000, maybe even 5,000. Put it to 100. I don't know. It kind of depends. I mean, you could tie that into a grid system, so you can run data on various things. But as you see now, like I'm moving. I can't put to 1,000. I'll speed that up a bit. And as we get through, I should have put it to 50 if I was smart, but whatever. See, like he just resets, but everything gets moved backwards, right? And if I turn, there's like they're all still there, right? Like it literally looks like we're flying away from them, we're flying towards them, and that's technically that they're not. They're flying away from us. We're actually not moving that much. I mean, granted, right now I'm flying around this area. It's not doing the reset right now, because we're within that frame. But yeah, I feel like it's like my speed's gone ballistic. But you know what? We're moving towards it. Everything seems completely freaking normal. So anyways, that is an easy way to fix the floating point origin issue. So now I'm using a list. You said you don't technically have to use a list. Like you could, you know, you could just have an object like this, you know, and just shift this object in reality if you wanted to, then have another one for physics as well. So, excuse me, there are certain things you got to keep in mind, such as bullets and transforms and effects and stuff like that, right? Because if it does the shift, the bullet doesn't get shifted unless you had an object like this that also does, say, your particle system or something like your bullets or whatever, that when you shoot, it parents under that object, and then then the object would travel relative to this parent, so that when you shift the parent, everything just seems normal. It looks like you're firing bullets, and it could shift all at once. It doesn't matter. But anyways, floating point origin fix.